We spend so much of our time looking up, right? At the stars, wondering what mysteries are out there in the universe. But what if I told you that some of humanity's greatest, most mind-blowing secrets, well, they aren't up there at all. They're buried right here, deep beneath our feet.
No, seriously, have you ever just stood on solid ground and really considered what's down there? Not just dirt and pipes, but entire worlds. Worlds built by ancient hands for reasons that, honestly, we're only just beginning to wrap our heads around. So, let's dive right into this. The evidence shows that for thousands of years, across totally different continents and cultures, people have had the same strange impulse: to dig, to go down. But the big question is, why? What were they hiding from? Or maybe, what were they trying to find? Okay, so the most obvious reason to go underground is survival, right? To get away from danger. And there is no greater, more staggering example of this on the entire planet than the ancient city of Derinkuyu in modern-day Turkey.
Just look at that number, 20,000. This wasn't some tiny little bunker, okay? This was a full-blown subterranean city. Archaeologists figure it could house 20,000 people, along with their animals and all their food. A completely functioning town, totally hidden from the world above.
And the way we found it is almost as incredible as the city itself. It wasn't some huge planned archaeological dig. Nope. In the 1960s, a local guy was just doing some renovations on his house. He knocked down a wall in his basement, and behind it, he found a passageway. And that one tunnel just kept going and going, leading him deep down into a city lost to history for centuries.
And don't picture some primitive cave system. Derinkuyu was an absolute masterpiece of engineering. They carved these ventilation shafts so deep they were like skyscrapers turned upside down, making sure fresh air got to the very bottom. They had these massive half-ton stone doors that you could only roll into place from the inside, making it a nearly perfect fortress. This wasn't just a hideout, it was a world built to last.
But this is where that simple survival explanation starts to get a little shaky. I mean, think about it. If this was just a temporary bunker to wait out an attack, why would you go to all the trouble of carving out chapels and wineries? Those aren't exactly survival essentials. This stuff points to something more, a real community, a culture that was planning to live there, not just hide. It suggests that going underground was about more than just safety. All right, so let's jump to a whole new continent, because the story only gets stranger. We're going to Mexico, underneath the famous pyramids of Teotihuacan. Here, another underground world was found, but this one wasn't for protecting the living. It seems it was built as a kind of gateway for the gods. So you can see the contrast here is huge. Derinkuyu was a sprawling city. The tunnel at Teotihuacan, discovered in 2003 after a sinkhole opened up, was a single sacred path. And get this, it was deliberately sealed almost 2,000 years ago. Its builders didn't want anyone to just stumble upon it. They wanted it to stay hidden forever.
And what they found inside was just astonishing. The walls were coated in this powdered pyrite and hematite, so in the flickering light of a torch, the whole place would have glittered like a night sky full of stars. They found thousands of precious offerings, and at the very end of the tunnel, they found pools of liquid mercury, a really rare, incredibly toxic substance that would have been a massive effort to get.
One of the discoverers said the site was just surreal, that it sparkled like water in the light. That shimmering mercury wasn't some accident. Researchers believe it was meant to be a sacred river of the underworld, a reflective surface between the world of the living and the world of the dead. This wasn't just a tunnel, it was a man-made cosmic landscape, built for powerful rituals.
The mystery deepens even more when we head to the Andes Mountains of Peru, to a site called Chavín de Huántar. Here, we find tunnels that were built for an even stranger purpose, not to house people, not to worship gods, but to directly mess with the human mind.
What we're talking about is ancient acoustic engineering. The architects of this place built this network of galleries and passages to totally control what a person saw and heard, to create this really disorienting and probably transformative experience. This was basically a technology designed to alter consciousness. So just imagine walking through this labyrinth. You squeeze through a passage so narrow you have to turn sideways. Then suddenly it opens up into a massive chamber where any little sound you make echoes back at you from every direction. The play of light and shadow, the confusing sounds, it was all designed to break down your normal sense of reality, probably as part of some intense initiation ritual. And that brings us to our final and maybe the most baffling mystery of all, the Longyou Caves in China. This is a discovery of unbelievable scale, with one giant, impossible problem. There's absolutely no historical record that it was ever built.
1 million cubic meters of rock. That's how much experts think was excavated by hand to create these massive underground caverns. To put that into perspective for you, that's enough rock to fill over 400 Olympic-sized swimming pools. And remember, this was all done with hand tools, thousands of years ago.
And here's the real kicker. Ancient China was a culture that was obsessed with keeping records. They documented everything. So how does a project this massive just vanish from history? There isn't a single text that mentions who built the Longyou Caves, or why. They found no tools, no artifacts, no human remains inside. It's like a civilization carved out this massive complex and then just, poof, disappeared, and took the entire memory of it with them.
So as we've seen, the reasons for digging down are as varied as they are mysterious. You have survival in Derinkuyu, sacred rituals in Teotihuacan, mind alteration in Peru, and then the complete and total enigma of the Longyou Caves. Each discovery just seems to answer one question while opening up a dozen more. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? These incredible sites were found purely by accident. A man knocking down a wall, a sinkhole opening after a storm. It just proves that there are hidden worlds all around us. So the real question is, what else is down there? Buried just beneath our feet, waiting for the ground to break.